The media, who are the enemy of the American people, are refusing to cover the details of how egregious this is. This here is one of the most disgusting, repulsive, and reprehensible examples of abandoning one's unit, of turning back on country and instead for own personal comfort and safety that we have ever seen in politics. And it's far worse than I even think people are describing it. It is worse than stolen valor. It is abandoning your fellow soldiers. I'm going to read from a Twitter thread from an individual called Cynical Pubulus. It is in a remarkable summary of what's going on here. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very long, but I'm going to capture the essence of it. So first, some facts. Tim Walz served for 24 years in the Minnesota Army National Guard, retiring at the rank of Master Sergeant as an E8 in the Army. In the spring of 2005, Walz was serving as the Command Sergeant Major of the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery, a Minnesota Army National Guard battalion that is part of the 34th Infantry Division. Also in spring of 2005, Walz and his battalion received a warning order that their battalion would be deploying to Iraq. We know this because Walz's own congressional campaign told us at the time. See the link below from the Wayback Machine, and this is here. By the way, the Twitter feed is Cynical Pubulus. I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. Knowing that his unit was deploying, Walz nevertheless chose to retire from the National Guard in May of 2005 to pursue his congressional campaign. Serving members of the National Guard and the reserves routinely also serve in Congress and always have. Tulsi Gabbard is an excellent recent example. Walz did not necessarily need to retire to run for Congress. However, in Iraq deployment, he might have chosen instead to participate and would, in fact, have prevented him from campaigning. Walz's retirement meant that he did not fulfill a contractual service commitment he willingly entered into when the Army selected him to attend the United States Army Sergeant's Major Academy. As a result, the Army reduced his official retirement rank from E9 to E8. Now, those are the facts, but let's get even into more detail of how egregious this is. And for every veteran out there, listen carefully. For every single one of you that are a mom or a dad to someone that has served, for every one of you that has an aunt, an uncle, a brother in our beautiful armed forces, listen carefully. This is an insult to all of you. So Walz retired when he was allowed to and ran for Congress instead. So what's the big deal? Why are we talking about this? Well, had Walz been some slug, E8, holding down some clerical job in the 34th Infantry Division headquarters, counting his days until retirement, and he opted to take a lawful retirement rather than go to Iraq, no one would care. But that's not what happened. Walz was a Command Sergeant Major, or CSM. That makes all the difference in the world. A CSM is the senior NCO of an Army battalion. He is the battalion commander's most trusted advisor. He is the standard setter for every other NCO and junior enlisted soldier in that battalion. All eyes are on him. He is as close to God on earth as a soldier could ever be. The rank and position of a CSM is exceptionally hard to attain. Very few NCOs ever make it. More importantly, taking on duties of a CSM is a sacred trust. The 500 plus soldiers in your battalion are trusting you to train them and hold them to a standard where they can fight, win, and survive in combat. Those soldiers put their faith, trust, and lives into your hands. This is a sacred trust. In the spring of 2005, Walz walked away from that sacred trust, abandoning his post when he learned of an upcoming Iraq deployment. This is Cynical Pubulus saying this. He is a coward. According to this Twitter feed, he is a quitter. And every veteran I've talked to thinks that Walz is close to betraying the country by doing this. It is at this point that I would like to share a relevant personal anecdote of what it means. Now, I'm reading from this Twitter feed. When a CSM walks away on the eve of combat. When I was a battalion commander, he writes, just a few weeks before we were about to deploy to Afghanistan, and we had done our intensive joint readiness training center rotation with my team, we were taken to the fight. My CSM was relieved by the division commanding general because the CSM did something particularly stupid involving a junior enlisted soldier and got caught. I cannot describe how disruptive that was. It was like having the beating heart ripped out of our battalion. We overcame it, but it was tough, and it upset the entire NCO chain as we had to elevate multiple NCOs in the chain of responsibility to new positions that they had not trained in, all because our CSM had been relieved. That disruption could have resulted in deaths in combat. Thankfully, it did not. Now, this is the analogy he uses. I want to, and by the way, NCO means non-commissioned officer. Someone asked in good faith whether or not Walz simply left one kind of service for a higher level of service in Congress. This Twitter author says, I thought long and hard about an appropriate analogy as an answer to that question, and finally came up with one. What Walz did is the moral equivalent of a mother dropping off her 5 preteen children at an orphanage in the dead of night so that she could run for Congress. Yes, it is that bad. This was more than just abandoning troops. It also reflects a major personal deficit in his character and makeup. By the way, this is written by a veteran. Tim Walz then lied about it to run for Congress and acted as if he was on the front lines. And people in Walz's battalion died. People under his supervision died. If Master Sergeant retired Walz could not be trusted to fulfill his duties he had to his soldiers, his unit, and his nation in 2005, how can he be trusted to be vice president in 2025? Tim Walz is not qualified to be a municipal dog catcher, let alone vice president of the United States. Now, some people attack Donald Trump for, quote, attacking the Vietnam draft or some nonsense like that. He responds, quote, to which I easily say, Trump did not serve, neither did Clinton, Obama, or Biden, or Harris. But cutting and running in the face of the enemy and abandoning the troops you were sworn to lead as their senior non-commissioned officer is 1,000 times worse than never serving at all. The armed forces run on loyalty and brotherhood. Walz abandoned his brothers. Not only did Walz abandon his sacred duty to his soldiers to pursue a self-serving political goal, he then went and bragged politically about the honorable leadership as a CSM that he never provided. He took credit for a rank he never fulfilled. He lied about his service in war, and he cynically did all of this for no other reason than personal gain. This is a despicable case of stolen valor and reflects this man's lack of honor, integrity, and good character, and also Kamala Harris's lack of integrity and character for parading around the country with a man who betrayed our best and most courageous. And he did it for his own purposes, not for America.